It's 2003. Vladimir Putin has just arrived at Buckingham Palace for a state visit. He's 14 minutes late, which it won't surprise you he does to assert dominance, as you do. Standing there waiting alongside the Queen is the then Home Secretary David Blunkett with his beautiful guide dog, a black Labrador called Sadie. The dog takes one look at Putin as he walks in and starts barking, and it will not stop. Blunkett is mortified, of course, given the importance of the moment and all those people in attendance, and he apologises profusely to the Queen, whispering, "Sorry, Your Majesty," about the dog. Without missing a beat, she says quietly, "Dogs have interesting instincts, don't they?" The royals have always played a figurehead role in politics and meeting with history's big players over the years, but their power in such moments is often misunderstood. Right now, King Charles is on a state visit to the United States, and there are serious people arguing he shouldn't have gone. I think that argument completely misunderstands what the royal family actually does and why it matters. To explain, let's go way back to 1939, a bleak and scary time with Europe on the edge of war. Germany is rearming, Britain knows what's coming, and America is firmly, loudly politically isolationist. Roosevelt can see the danger. He can see what Britain will need in the future, and that is American support. But he can't say that publicly because a significant part of his electorate will punish him for it if he does. So he does something else. He invites King George and the Queen Elizabeth of the time to visit the United States. It's the first time a reigning British monarch has ever set foot on American soil. Roosevelt plans the visit meticulously because he understands that what he needs isn't a treaty. He needs Americans to feel something about Britain, to see the King and Queen not as distant imperial figureheads, but as real people worth caring about. And it works, of course, with more than 700,000 people lining the streets of Washington to watch the motorcade. The King and Queen then go to Hyde Park, Roosevelt's family home in New York, and sit down at a picnic. On the menu, alongside more refined regal dishes, are hot dogs. The Queen asks her host, "How do you eat this?" The New York Times runs with that, and also with a headline, "King tries hot dog and asks for more." It may all sound trivial, but it really wasn't. When Britain declared war on Germany 3 months later, Americans felt it differently because of that visit. They weren't watching some distant strangers. They were watching people they'd seen eat a hot dog on a lawn locally. The visit didn't create a formal military alliance. It couldn't. It just shifted the atmosphere. And that atmosphere shifted everything that came after. Then, in 2011, another Queen Elizabeth made the first visit by a British monarch to the Republic of Ireland in a century. Now, the relationship between Britain and Ireland had, as you might well know, not always been straightforward. The IRA had murdered Lord Mountbatten, one of the Queen's most beloved family members, in 1979, and yet here she is in Dublin. She's laying a wreath at the Garden of Remembrance honouring Irish rebels who died fighting for independence from Britain, and she's wearing green and even speaking Irish. And then the following year in Belfast, she shakes hands with Martin McGuinness, a former IRA commander who was then Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland. Things were pretty tense on the ground, and McGuinness had death threats from distant Republicans for just agreeing to meet the Queen. He said afterwards that in their meeting he raised the murder of Lord Mountbatten directly, and that she had been absolutely clear on the need to work together to make sure they didn't go back to the past. Just think about what it took to make that handshake happen. I'm originally from Northern Ireland, and I can tell you it was a big, big moment. No Prime Minister could have walked into that room carrying the same weight of history and emerged with the same result. No Secretary of State, no diplomat. The Queen could do it because she sat above the political noise while still being entirely inside the relationship. She wasn't taking a side, she was holding a space. And that's not pageantry by a figurehead in name only. That's real diplomacy at a level most governments can only dream of. So let's go back to Charles in Washington this week. The argument against his visit goes something like this. Trump's been difficult publicly against Britain. He's criticised Keir Starmer. He's made remarks about Iran that's put the UK in an awkward position. And over the weekend, the US even changed their position on the Balkan Islands. Not a good setting. But sending the king in this climate, the critics argue, is naive. It gives Trump oodles of coverage and a difficult time globally and nothing in return. There's also a question of what Charles can actually do. He is, of course, as the official announcement was careful to note, travelling on the advice of His Majesty's government. Everything he says is jointly crafted. He can't make deals, he can't make commitments, and he can't go off script. So what's the point given the backdrop? Because that's exactly the point. The royal family can engage without committing. They can be warm without being weak. And they can hold a relationship open across a change of government, a trade dispute, a policy disagreement, and even a war. They carry continuity that no elected politician can carry because elected politicians, by definition, come and go. Trump said it himself, actually, when told that Charles's visit had been arranged at Downing Street's request. He said, "I've known the king a long time. He's not involved in the process, the politics." And he's right. That's not a weakness in the strategy, though. That's the strategy actually working. King George went to Roosevelt not to sign a treaty, but to be a human in front of the American public. The Queen shook McGuinness's hand not to make a political statement, but to make a human connection that the political process couldn't make on its own. Charles is in Washington to do the same thing, to hold the relationship open, to signal through presence and ceremony that the alliance between Britain and America is bigger than any argument about Iran or tariffs or the latest bombastic Truth Social post sent at 2 a.m. The people calling for him to stay home want to make a point, but the history of royal diplomacy isn't really a history of points being made, as some argue. It's really a history of rooms being unlocked nobody else had the key to. And sometimes, as the Sadie the dog story tells us, the most important thing about a royal visit probably is not what anyone is saying in public. Keep that in mind this week. I'm Gavin Megaw. If you find this of interest, please follow and share, and I'll be back soon with more stories behind power and reputation. See you soon.